Radahn is my all-time favorite character in the story of Elden Ring. That won't be changing anytime soon as far as I'm aware. But while his story is my absolute favorite, there is someone whose boss fight I adore and typically go back to in new games more often than his. Radahn's mother, Queen Rennala of the Full Moon, is a character that takes several tropes that I really enjoy and combines them into a very simple and enjoyable fight. One that can catch you off guard during your first few attempts, as it pulls several tricks that you don't really see replicated often else in the game, and making her truly unlike any other boss you go up against. Renalla is the final boss of one of the game's legacy dungeons, large thematic areas that give the player some really good loot as they explore. Raya Lucaria Academy is a magical school focused on studying the stars, but under the reign of Renalla has turned to focus as much, if not more, on the moon. While most areas have monsters attack you physically, Raya Lucaria leaves the majority of its enemies to fight primarily with magic. The most common enemy here is a scholar, and they attack with an assortment of pure glintstone sorcery, only smacking the player with a book if they get too close. Their magic, like most, can become a nuisance if allowed to chain, giving them a window to spam and no need to stop. Early on, there's also a graveyard with zombies that can suck the magic out of the player if caught. The final magic enemy type is a Guardian Scholar, who will pair their magic with a sword, throwing in physical combat along with their magic, as well as occasionally merging the two archetypes. Outside of these, the main pure physical enemies are machines brought to life using magic. Everything in this area emphasizes the use of glintstone and sorcery, and the enemies scattered around are both proficient in and resistant to these. As sorcery is the most powerful thing to a lot of players, this area also serves as a zone where that gets flipped on its head, and you either need spells that aren't pure magic damage, or to pick up a sword. Later on in the area, you come across Radagon's Wolf, a creature that can fight with feral attacks, but is more than capable of stepping back to set up traps and conjure weapons for itself, allowing it to cover its blind spots and often close its own openings. Beating the wolf opens a courtyard, leading up a ramp where you phase through the traps and come across a Carrion Knight. I actually enjoy fighting these guys, but there's an easy strategy against them. They perfectly blend physical attacks with magic, allowing them to deflect spells, parry strikes, and deal solid damage. I find this to be a very good pick for the area's final blockade. Killing them will also halt the trap on the bridge, allowing safer passage up. You ascend an elevator, open a doorway, and are greeted by Rennalla's boss room. You enter an overwhelmingly large and dark library with massive chandeliers and piles of books that tower over you in comparison. Taking a few steps in and looking around the environment, it doesn't take long for one of the students inside to try and bite you, failing as she's too weak to outpace you. She turns up, revealing split irises and a broken and crooked smile. Other than that, however, her complexion is flawless. It's then when the room fills with laughter and countless other students light their candles, revealing themselves hiding in the darkness. Rennala then descends from the ceiling, captivated more by the amber egg in her hand, refusing to break her gaze with it as she speaks to you.
Hush, little Calva. I'll soon birth thee anew, a sweeting, fresh, and pure.
She tries to calm you, reassuring that she will rebirth you, make you pure and fresh, born perfectly in your own ideal image. But the ground around you is scattered with reflections of what letting that happen entails. This fight comes with a greater risk than most. Death is never the end, and you'll always be reincarnated and left at grace, as death is a concept unbound from the Elden Ring. Death has always been an inconvenience at best, But this fight is different because killing you was never her goal. It's only when her motivations are stated that she releases her gaze, closing her eyes to help her move them away before opening them, now softly laying on you. You are now her egg, and she is intent on you being born. The majority of the students are malformed, struggling to damage the player and incapable of moving. They'll occasionally blow fire at you, but that's about the extent of it. The main threat here is the library itself. Everything is enchanted and will damage the player for getting too close. Chandeliers will light up and fall on anyone who walks under, and globes will levitate and follow the player to explode. This can easily allow them to deal massive damage to someone walking in for the first time, unaware of the deadly surroundings, or taking their focus off of them. Every threat in the room is easily avoidable, but there isn't any breathing room, and these hazards will swarm you and constantly pull your focus off of the lethal blow. The mages beforehand and their spam were only a small build-up to this chaotic and suffocating showdown. Along with this, Rennala will occasionally use her powers to rebirth and throw more students down into the fight, or will take them and reshape them into explosive projectiles that she launches at the player, giving more things to watch out for, as well as making sure you can't just chip away at the weak enemies and make her harmless. Through the fight, Renalla is floating in a crystal shell above the room, and in order to get her down, you need to locate which of the students is singing, indicated by the golden aura of their voice and the elegant and somber rhyme they sing.
Sleep tight, bound tight by mother's umbrella. Sleep tight, fight like in mother's umbrella.
As well as the books that they throw at you. Whether you kill them or not doesn't matter. If you hit the singing student, it'll crack the shell around Renalla. And after the third crack, she falls down, unable to get back up and unable to fight back. It's a somber or even depressing state, showing the effect this egg has had on not only those she rebirths, but on Renalla herself. She's given into it fully, let it take her mind like a parasite. She willingly withers away, caring for it as she gently wisps through the air, not even taking the self-care to maintain the strength to lift herself when she's put down. She has no intention of leaving this state. The students around are left in confusion afterwards, occasionally spouting off snippets of the rhyme. They don't know what to do, they never predicted this. This is the moment when you're free to attack her, but after a while one of the students will get back into focus and start singing the song, causing Renalla to burst and activate her shield again. You have to get into a loop of knocking her down, attacking and dodging away before she explodes, and you'll steadily take her down. As for the egg,
My beloved, have no fear. I will hold thee. Patience. Ye will be countless born, forever and ever.
Upon my name as Rani the Witch. Mother's rich slumber shall not be disturbed by thee. Foul trespasser. Send word far and wide. Of the last queen of Caria, Rennala of the full moon. And the majesty of the night she conjureth.
The egg had a blessing placed over it, done by none other than her daughter, the Empyrean known as Rani. She saw the frail state that her mother was in and rejected that in her mind, creating an idealized version, the Rennala that she remembers. And this Rennala isn't one to mess with. She has a wide array of spells that she's mastered and ones that she's created herself in study of the moon. When hit by Rennalla's full moon, your magic resistance is also lowered substantially, making all of her other attacks even more powerful if it lands. Rennala is a master of glintstone and can fill the arena with countless homing projectiles, and if allowed to build up too much, they can become really difficult to escape from, especially when you get her to half health. Rennala is the only enemy in the game aside from a literal fucking snail who possesses spirit ashes. She can summon a pack of wolves, a bloodhound knight, a troll, and even a dragon. They add an extra bit of spam that makes it harder to dodge the rest of her arsenal and lead to the deaths of a lot of players. Another thing about Rennala that makes her difficult is that as the headmaster of the Magic Academy, she has a magic resistance of 80%, with magic being considered the game's easy mode and one that a lot of players gravitate towards, though her physical resistance is actually in the negatives to make up for this. Basically, in a normal playthrough, she's a moderate challenge, but if you want to practice magic and blast everyone with laser cannons, however, she's waiting in the academy to give you a very thorough vigor check. But once you've beaten the illusion, the somber reality sets back in. You've just gotten the Great Rune of the Unborn. It was a treasure locked inside the amber egg itself, but that hasn't broken its hold on her. You awaken to see her clutching the egg, calling out to the students, her reborn children, and that's when the glory becomes bitter. They're gone, every one. Those reborn by Renalla are frail and short-lived, imperfect all. She calls to them, trying to bribe them out, then thinks maybe they just need to be reborn again. But not a single one emerges, and she's too distracted by the egg to even notice. However, those who possess the Great Rune of the Unborn can withstand the negative effects of rebirth, and talking to Renalla allows you to use a larval tier to be reborn, respeccing all of your levels. You can be here to comfort her, because she's lost everything else to her addiction. After that, you can either indulge it for your own personal gain, or you can leave her in her somber state to suffer alone. If you do allow her to rebirth you, you're given an emote, balled up. A bitter end to a once renowned character. She had everything. She was Carian royalty. She was wife to the Elden Lord. But when he left, all he left behind was a sadness and a plummet into obsession and addiction. Her own children leaving, not wanting to see her in this state, clinging to the version of her that they once knew. And she hurts those around her to feed it, to fill her craving, but unable to ever satisfy it. And now, you're here, but there's nothing you can do to help her. You got her to take her eyes off the egg for a single moment, but in the end, it became all she could focus on. She can't look away, so no matter what you choose now, you can't give her a happy ending. The fight itself is amazing, and the ending has a lot of tragic parallels and interpretations that can hit a little too personally for a lot of people. While she isn't my favorite character, this fight will always be the one I never skip out on. Feel free to give your own thoughts or talk about what your favorite fight is in the comments. It's always fun hearing people talk about what they personally think, or what their favorites are. That's all for now.